The Illuminati is the most famous secret society in the world. In popular culture, it has become a permanent, all-seeing cabal, flashing symbols in music videos, hiding behind the pyramid on the dollar bill, pulling the strings of global finance. But the modern myth has largely buried the evidence. Before the internet rumors and the Hollywood paranoia, there was a very real, documented historical organization. It didn't start in ancient Egypt. It started in Bavaria in 1776. It was founded by a 28-year-old university professor named Adam Weishaupt, and its original goal wasn't global domination. It was to spread Enlightenment ideas, quietly working through influential circles to challenge the rigid religious and political structures of the time. Forget the internet conspiracies. It is time to open the archive on the real Bavarian Illuminati. To understand the Illuminati, you have to understand the world Adam Weishaupt was living in. Ingolstadt in 1776 was a pressure cooker of authority. The university's intellectual life was still heavily shaped by Jesuit influence, even after the Society of Jesus had been suppressed by the Church just 3 years earlier. The state was governed by an absolute monarchy, and within these halls, religious and political authority were difficult and risky to challenge. Weishaupt was a man of the Enlightenment. He believed in reason and the potential for human progress. But in this environment, challenging the status quo could lead to professional consequences, pressure, or outright censorship. He didn't start his order because he wanted to conquer the world. He started it because he felt he was being stifled by a system of entrenched authority. He believed that if he wanted his ideas to survive, they could not be shared openly. He needed to operate beneath the reach of the authorities around him. That shield was secrecy. So, how did a handful of academics in Bavaria plan to change a deeply entrenched system? Weishaupt knew that open recruitment carried too much risk. He couldn't simply hand out pamphlets. He had to build a framework designed for gradual, protected expansion. To conceal their identities, the order stripped away real names and adopted classical aliases. Weishaupt became Spartacus. His closest allies took names like Ajax and Agathon. Even the geography was coded. In their letters, Munich became Athens, and Bavaria was Achaia. The structure itself was designed to shield the hierarchy. Members were organized into small, localized groups. In the lower ranks, a new initiate typically only knew the identity of their direct recruiter, remaining largely unaware of the broader leadership above them. But secrecy alone doesn't create influence. To actually change the system, they needed access to men of wealth, intellect, and political power. Instead of building a massive network from scratch, the Illuminati made a highly calculated move. They decided to quietly integrate themselves into an existing one. They targeted the Freemasons. By joining established Masonic lodges, Weishaupt's recruiters could observe the social elite, identify the most capable Enlightenment thinkers, and slowly draw them into the inner ranks of the order. Adam Weishaupt may have created the Illuminati, but he struggled to make it grow. By 1780, the order was still mostly a small circle of Bavarian students and academics. To achieve real influence, Weishaupt needed someone who understood the elite. He found that in Baron Adolf von Knigge. His alias was Philo. Knigge wasn't just another recruit. He was a well-connected aristocrat, writer, and prominent Freemason. When he joined, he took Weishaupt's small, fragile structure and reorganized it. He created new ranks, refined their rituals, and effectively used Masonic networks to identify and recruit suitable members. Under Knigge, the order expanded rapidly. It grew from a small Bavarian circle into a much wider network across German-speaking Europe. Suddenly, their membership lists included dukes, politicians, and influential writers. They were no longer just debating ideas in a university study. They were quietly positioning themselves within the circles where ideas and decisions traveled. But this rapid growth created a fatal internal strain. Weishaupt, the founder, and Knigge, the architect, began to clash bitterly over control, direction, and ideology. Their egos threatened the one thing keeping them safe. The Illuminati had stopped being a private intellectual club and had become a sprawling, ambitious network, and it was getting entirely too big for the authorities to ignore. The downfall of the Illuminati didn't come from a rival global cabal. It came from internal leaks, bruised egos, and an anxious government. In 1784 and 1785, as rumors of this secret network spread, the ruler of Bavaria, Elector Charles Theodore, issued sweeping edicts banning all unauthorized secret societies. But the real fatal blow came in 1786. Bavarian authorities raided the home of one of the order's senior members. What they found inside was a trove of internal material. They confiscated coded correspondence, membership material, and Weishaupt's private writings outlining his views on religion, authority, and the future of society. The secret was out. Weishaupt lost his university position and fled Bavaria to avoid arrest. Nigge had already left the group in frustration. The network collapsed. To ensure the order was entirely discredited, the Bavarian government did something unprecedented. In 1787, instead of burning the confiscated documents, they published them. They released the Illuminati's inner workings to the public as a warning. It was an 18th century public exposure of a secret archive. But the Bavarian authorities made a critical miscalculation. By publishing the secret papers to destroy the order, they accidentally gave birth to the legend. When the Bavarian government published the Illuminati's documents, they began attracting attention across Europe. People were fascinated by the codes, the aliases, and the anti-clerical, anti-absolutist ideas. Then, just 2 years later, in 1789, the unthinkable happened. The French Revolution. The French monarchy began to collapse. Europe was thrown into fear, political panic, and eventually war. For many conservative observers, the revolution felt too enormous to be explained by ordinary politics. They couldn't believe a collapse of this scale could happen organically. They needed someone to blame. In the years that followed, conservative writers, looking for an explanation, pointed straight at the published Bavarian documents. They claimed the Illuminati hadn't actually been destroyed. They claimed the order had simply gone underground, orchestrated the French Revolution, and was now plotting to overthrow the entire world. There was no credible evidence that the Bavarian Illuminati had orchestrated the revolution, but the story was too good to ignore. The real Bavarian Illuminati lasted barely a decade. They failed to overthrow a single government. But by trying to destroy them, the authorities immortalized them. They turned a short-lived Bavarian order into the greatest ghost story of the modern age. The real order died in the 18th century. The legend did not. And as always, stay curious.